What's going on, everyone? It's Adam, and it has certainly been an interesting day for baseball. We got a few things I feel like we need to talk about. But before we get going, make sure you follow me on Twitter at TheBaseballWOR2, and make sure to follow these videos on YouTube at The Baseball World Today Pod. Let's get on to it. So, as of about noon to 1 today, we believed that Michael Brantley had signed with the Blue Jays. That's what had been reported. So we believed he got a 3-year deal. We didn't know the money. I was assuming about 35-40 million range, but as it turns out, that was a huge mistake by reporters, actually. And I'll try and see who got it wrong originally, but Michael Brantley is actually heading back to the Astros, the first real move the Astros have made this offseason. So let's talk about it from the Blue Jays standpoint first, then we'll look at the Astros, then we're going to talk about the reporters, actually. So, Michael Brantley is kind of a big loss, I feel like, for the Blue Jays not to get, especially after the amount of hype there was about this move. It seemed like it was everyone seemed the fan base seemed super happy about this move, so it seems pretty disappointing for the Blue Jays not to end up pushing through and signing him. So I feel like that's a big disappointment. And now if you're the Blue Jays, you gotta look like, okay, what do we do now? Because there's not really a lot of outfielders out there in the market quite like Brantley. So I would have to suggest the first thing they want to think about doing is getting like an Eddie Rosario and a David Dahl. Obviously, two guys who are cheaper. Okay, so really quickly, according to Ken Rosenthal, Hazel May was the one who reported she was the one who reported the Blue Jays news, but many people confirmed it. Ken Rosenthal said source confirmed, so beyond that now, we'll talk about that more later. So if you're the Blue Jays, I think Eddie Rosario is the guy they should go after, or David Dahl, even a Duvall, but lower Carson outfield so I would get one of them, and then maybe go after Odorizzi or Brad Hand to shore out the rest of the pitching staff. But like I said, it's not really a player quite like Brantley. I'd have to say the closest one out there isn't Eddie Rosario, and maybe David Dahl has the potential, but you look out there, Brantley was almost kind of like a one-of-a-kind on the market. But yeah, this is certainly tough if you're the Blue Jays, but it kind of just is what it is, and you gotta hope that you can make another move in the outfield. I still think they need an outfielder, and then make some moves through the pitching staff and maybe use the money to better terms almost, because Brantley's kind of getting up there, so maybe a 3-year deal isn't the greatest thing ever for him. But if you get maybe an Eddie Rosario, who we all know I'm very high on. Let's look at Eddie Rosario really quick. If you could get him for maybe a year or two, then maybe the value isn't really that bad, quite frankly. Last year, Eddie Rosario, 260, 316, 800 OPS, and it's been a solid 800 OPS hitter with a 30 home run season under his belt. So, quite frankly, if they can get him, they might just end up doing just fine if they sign him pitcher after. Now let's get on to the Astros side of this. So the Astros, this is really the first move they've made. And it's kind of an interest. It's one that makes sense. For sure. So let's pull up their team. So right now the Astros, listen, this is a team that still took the race within one game of making it to the World Series, which I think a lot of people forget about. But the problem is they've lost Springer now. They're hoping to have Verlander back at some point. I'm not really sure what the odds of that are, but their pitching staff still seems a little diminished after Greinke. They still have certainly some guys who can give you some stuff, like Lance McCullers, but after that, certainly pretty thin. But the lineup should still be very productive, especially with Brantley back in it. So Astros certainly seem trying to make a run still, despite losing Springer. So if you're the Astros, you want to lose from the offensive side of the game, more than anything, because you can't really afford to lose any more pitching. So we'll see if the Astros are in on any pitches and if they are able to do anything from it. So glad to see another AL team trying to make some moves. So now we gotta talk about something else, and this is the reporting, because this is this is a pretty bad look, quite frankly. So in the last week, we've had a couple situations like this. Luis Castillo, people thought were traded to the Yankees. But Passan said that wasn't true, and he makes sure to not believe people who aren't verified and stuff like that. Okay, that's not really on the big guys like that. But then we see the other day they get Kirby Ace's money amount wrong. That's not really a big deal. But now to get something like this wrong, that's quite bad, I gotta say. Obviously, these guys aren't going to lose their jobs. These are some of the best baseball reporters in the world. But Ken Rosenthal reporting this typically is the green light that's happening. And to see him, it wasn't completely his fault, obviously, because someone else got it wrong first. But to see this is pretty disappointing, and hopefully the reporters can take some responsibility for themselves, because to get moves like this wrong, it's pretty tough, especially on the players and the franchises who lose out on the player like this, because now I'm sure the Blue Jays are under a lot of flack for this, for being oh, we got another great player, but actually we didn't, and now the fans are noticeably and should be upset. Passan, however, I know, never said he was going to him, as far as I see on Twitter. He's still my king on Twitter, so he's the be-all and end-all for me right now, so in terms of reporting. But something to know, something to keep in mind, I would say, is something to keep in mind is we gotta make sure these reporters are 100% positive over what they're reporting. Otherwise, some bad consequences could come out of it for these players and these franchises. So that's just something to remember, because that's about 3 things in the last week when we never really see anything like this, I would say. So something to keep an eye on. But this is really a tough look for the Blue Jays when it's really not even their fault. But a good move for the Astros to get him on 2 years and $16 million a year, I would say.